Nebraska Supreme Court hearing arguments in a case about the restoration of voting rights.
In July, the Secretary of State's office stopped registering people with past felonies who have not been pardoned. 6 News' Philip Katafamo joins us live in the studio with more.
John and Aaron, the court did not hand down an official ruling today, but both sides made their case, with the hearing lasting about 30 minutes. The lawsuit filed in July disputes Nebraska Secretary of State Bob Edmunds' order to halt voter registration for felonies. That directive stems from an opinion by Attorney General Mike Hilgers, who said both LB 53 and 20 are unconstitutional. Now, since 2005, LB 53 allowed felons to vote 2 years after completing their sentences. This year, state lawmakers removed the waiting period with the passing of LB 20. ACLU of Nebraska argues Edmunds' actions were an overreach.
Nebraska statutes enjoy a presumption of constitutionality. The Secretary here made a unilateral determination on his own to declare our statutes unconstitutional. The court should correct this overreach, issue the writs as soon as possible to give Nebraskan voters the clarity they need before this year's election.
Nebraska Solicitor General Eric Hamilton, representing the Secretary of State's office, is asking for the petition to be dismissed. He argued today only the Board of Pardons can restore voting rights when they issue a pardon.
Our Constitution requires felons to be restored to civil rights before they can vote again. LB 53 and LB 20 don't do that. They restore a single civil right, leaving all others unrestored. We ask this court would dismiss Relator's petition.
An official decision by the court is expected in the coming weeks. We are just under 3 months away from the November general election. On your side, Philip Katafamo, 6 News. Back to you, John and Aaron.
Thanks, Philip. A woman accused of a murder in Ohio was in Douglas County Court today. Janelle Nelson was denied bond as she faces charges of assault and manslaughter. Nelson is from Wisconsin, but was arrested in Omaha yesterday. Ohio police say they tracked her to Nebraska through a social media post along with license plate readers. Omaha police reportedly recovered a gun while arresting Nelson. She will be taken to Ohio to face the manslaughter charge. Now, in just over a week, Douglas County authorities have arrested 4 murder suspects for cases in 3 different states.